to the Wolfkeeper, a show that's just about everything that you could maybe think about, everything that you can feel that's inside of your heart. What I need for you to do right now is spend the next hour relaxing. Just stop your day before you go into 12 o'clock. And I just want y'all to close your minds, open your hearts, and relax and go on this journey with me. It's a beautiful place that you're about to go, because I want to make you feel, I want to just open you up and think about some things you never really thought about. Right now, the Wolfkeeper. Come on. Good morning, y'all. Come on. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Get ready. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Your boy, Torriano Sanzoni. Yeah. Chanelli Nell. My boy Tyrone Scott somewhere rocking the Doogie Dogs. Denzel's in his house. Shacky Shack. And for all the people out there that love us, we love you back. Thank you all. Get ready for an amazing show with the Wolfkeeper. Get ready. Here we go. Sanzoni on the Wolfkeeper show. Today's going to be an amazing, amazing episode. I hope that I say something. Hey, Leonard, guess what? My 2 episodes ago, I got banned from Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. Wow. Man, why don't the volume work? And then I feel like when you break up with someone, but you don't know that you broke up. Like they dumped you, but you didn't know you were dumped. Yeah. I was like, oh, snap. They banned it. Like I was talking politics, I was talking sex, and I feel kind of good and bad at the same time. That's crazy, man. Well, I heard you with the bars on that, man, on the theme song. Hey, man. I got Dave Leonard. Yes, sir. In the house today, man. Extraordinaire entertainment person, man. Going all the way back to the 90s. Also, too, you've done so much for the local. Well, I shouldn't say local, but locally, globally, what you've done for the entertainment, film industry, TV industry here. It's crazy. You and I crossed paths back in the 90s. Yeah. You were at Sony. I had done I was like an intern for Sony through a street marketing company. But I later worked for Interscope Records, but I worked for several different labels doing street promotion. And for the youngest, they don't know about street promotions, because that was in the 90s. That was like, I mean, you and I can say street promotions like nonchalant, like, but back in the days, that was a big deal, because like Mary Datcher, who was on the street promotions, that was a big deal to be on her team.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Chauncey Bill. Remember Chauncey Bill?
Yep. Yeah. Me and Chauncey actually came up together under, rest in peace, Tammy Tisdale Coleman. She was the first person to put me on, a mentor. She had her own street promotion company called Ground Zero Marketing and Promotions.
Ground Zero. Wow.
And then she later went on to work with Sony 550 and Virgin Records.
And then that was crazy, because then you also had, who else was Jay Bird? Jay Bird and Jello had Shrewd, and then Shrewd Marketing.
Also, rest in peace to my boy Dwayne Holmes, who had Jaguar Entertainment. And
Jaguar Entertainment. Rest in peace to Dedry,
and also my man Parrish with Across the Board, man.
Right.
So yeah, man.
I mean, these are people that laid. I mean, for people that don't know why this episode is so important, Fatima Nefertiti out there, Menadru, and David Leonard, for those that are just tuning in, this is an important episode because you and I were at the beginning of like the music industry. I mean, George Daniels, who pretty much controlled the West Side, like every artist from around the world would have to go to the West Side of Chicago. Like, if you didn't have George's blessing, that was a real thing. Yeah.
Well, that was a whole era that, a lot of the young cats now don't even know about. That's when there was this thing called retail. So you had actual real record stores that you go into, and you buy these things called CDs or cassettes, and it's that's a thing of the past. But for us, man, that was a huge part of the game, man. Without retail, you wouldn't have all of the digital music that you have today, honestly.
Man, because I mean, you and I are old enough. I mean, my mom, remember growing up with 8-tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, remember she had Diana Ross, ring my bell. Ring my bell. I mean, we had 8-tracks, cassettes, albums.
Yeah.
Because actually, our generation, we for sure were messing with them all.
Yeah.
Vinyl. I mean, 8-tracks, cassettes. Remember when they had the big disc for a while? What was the laser?
Oh, laser disc. Yeah. Wow, man, you really telling our age.
Laser disc.
Yeah.
The DAT.
Yeah. Yeah. The DATs. I think they still use DATs occasionally. I don't know. Like I'm like so far removed from that world, man. But it's and I came in at a time like when a little bit before the transition started happening. So like I got in the game, like you said, like right around the time I was in college. And then I want to say like right around 2001, that's when the huge shift started to happen.
Right.
And, from retail and hard product to digital. And that's when like the whole, Napster, LimeWire, all of those, like.
My favorite story I like to talk about, to interrupt you, Ed Maxson, wherever you're at. Ed Maxson, I remember, man, just this really tough boss. I tell this story so much because it's so fascinating. I was at Navarre Corporation. We were like one of the largest independent distributors.
Yeah.
And he walked into the office and he said, I don't know why the fuck you all freaking out. This whole digital download is a fad. And I mean, think about that. Like we didn't know that there would be an iTunes one day, that there would be a CD baby, that there'd be a YouTube and all this other stuff that would take it digital. Could we believe that a person would always want to open up the CD, take the shrink wrap off, put it? I mean, you know what I realized yesterday, man? I got a CD. I found a CD. My my rap group, because
Yeah.
I think everyone had a rap. Did you have a rap group?
I did. I see you sitting right over there.
What was your rap name?
Oh man, me and my one of my best friends. Shout out to my boy Lonzel Cross. You know, we met up in high school. We came together and formed a group called Code FI, and it stood for a couple of dope MCs finally in it, and we spelled the MCs EMCEES. But
Man.
yeah, we used to put we were like sort of like local heroes at our high school, because like we was one of the first cats to actually put out like a cassette single that we had in record stores, because of, you know, some of my relationships with some of the local record stores. We were able to get some of our stuff in there on consignment. So we used to do all of the shows and rap around the city and around the, you know, the hood. And
Hey, you remember that though, man? When you used to put when you would put your stuff on consignment?
yeah.
You'd ask like a record store, could you put like your cassettes in there, and you go check to see.
Right.
It was the one the record store owner had like the one cool wall that was all local artists that were on consignment.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, man.
Yeah, and I kind of learned that from, you know, working with Tammy, you know, doing street promotion, because one of my first jobs when she brought me on was to go to record stores and track the sales of projects that she was promoting, so that she could kind of get an idea of like what was selling more in certain areas of the city, so she could report back to her, you know, bosses. So,
and for the youngers that don't know, back then retail was so strong because retail could help break a brand new artist. Because then,
yes,
like my job. Shout out to Robert Red, who was one of my top bosses, and Brian Floyd, BMG Records.
Oh yeah.
I was at Interscope Ruckus in Minneapolis.
Yes.
I mean, we'd have to, but in doing A&R, artist development, so they would have us call into markets. If someone we actually was interested into an artist, I'd have to call into retail to see if that artist was hot. Or sometimes retailers would call us up and say, "Hey, this dude here's someone you need to pay attention to because they're like killing it. I'm selling more of this artist that's local."
Yeah.
Who would you say are some of the biggest artists then that are still present now that totally came up through that way, like retail and out of their trunks?
Man, that's a good question. You know, I think during the time when I was working in the business, you know, like for instance, when I first started working with Interscope, that was like right at the whole G Unit 50 Cent era, right? So like Get Rich or Die Trying had done its thing, and when I came to the label, that's when 50 was like releasing all the G Unit artists, you know, Buck, Game, Lloyd Banks. So I got to watch a lot of those artists and some of the other artists, you know, that were on the label at the time, like Slim Thug, you know, cats who were out of their trunk, you know, he was out of Houston, really come up, you know, just out of like mixtape world. And that was a whole new thing at that time too, is like cats were putting out mixtapes around that time, which was a whole nother, you know, avenue for artists. But to answer your question, man, to get back, I'm trying to think of like who like back then was like popping that's like still relevant now, man.
Who came up through retail? Well, we know the infamous Master P.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I remember I read a quote that Puffy said one time, like, I don't understand how he did it.
Yeah.
Like, they were for real pushing products out of their trunk.
Yeah. But I think like with like artists like Master P, who did start in that way, they've been able to maintain just in general because they were able to adapt and modify their whole business model. So like, you know, he started with the music and then started getting into, you know, sports management, movies, you know, he had a clothing line. So I think most artists, you know, who have been able to maintain have not just been solely dependent on just music. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this. I remember my mother in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say from 83 until 2000, all I knew was music. That's all I wanted to do. I knew, like, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
Artist.
Yeah.
Produce. Barry Gordy. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I wanted to do. Puffy came along and Father MC.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yep.
I mean, I wanted to be Puffy, right? And
yeah.
88, no one thought that rap would become a $1 billion business. That one day you see a 2 Chainz endorsement by Sprite.
Yeah.
2 Chainz with his own, you know, Cardi B talking to the President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
I mean, things definitely have changed.
Yeah.
We've come. I mean, so why do you think back then, from a racial point, from a cultural point, that in 88, no one could ever envision that a woman named Cardi B would be giving a presidential nomination?
Yeah.
I mean, giving an endorsement, rather.
Yeah. I think it takes a certain type of visionary to really be able to see and identify that. I think when hip hop was kind of in its early essence, and you know, you can go way beyond when commercial hip hop started coming out, and see how it's transcended throughout the years, and how it began in its basic forms. You go back to artists like the Last Poets, and even, you know, before them, you know, who were doing hip hop before it was known as hip hop. I was recently watching Straight Outta Compton, and there was a scene in there where Jerry Heller had invited some investors and like the head of Priority Records to come watch NWA perform. And like a couple of like it's a huge crowd, everybody was rocking with them, and like some of the investors leave out, but the dude from Priority was like looking at the reaction of everybody to how they were reacting to these dudes on stage. And he was like, yo, there's an audience here for this. This is gold we sitting on, and everybody needs to see this. And I think at the time that they were promoting the California Raisins theme song or whatever. So, you know, I think people have always underestimated, you know, what Black folks can do, first of all. And I feel like, you know, we're creative people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we have, you know, talent that just goes beyond what people think, you know, can work, you know, to sell a product or whatever. Like people, it resonates because it comes from some type of truth. It comes from some type of reality. It comes from, you know, people wanting to put a message out there that maybe, you know, certain people might be afraid to hear, you know what I mean? And I think that's why, you know, early on, people couldn't really see because like, oh, this will never sell, you know, it's too offensive, or it's not gonna, you know, people aren't gonna, you know, buy into this. But that's exactly what people needed at the time. So I think it's been able to grow because it's non-apologetic. There's no fear involved, and it's just real and raw, and you know, it resonates with people.
Well said, man. When you said that, I had so many questions for you regarding. you just brought me someplace else. I got to ask you this.
Yeah.
So when you were talking, you made me think about Public Enemy and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Public Enemy said "Fear of a Black Planet," right? Yeah. And here's this powerful music. Basically, it was like really rock music. I mean, they were upset about, you know, social unrest. They were upset about injustice to Black people. You had Ice Cube writing the song "Fuck the Police," which we couldn't listen. I remember we couldn't listen to NWA.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
it was banned from the household.
Yeah,
but here's this. What was he? 17 or 16 then?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, somewhere around there.
He was a teenager though.
Yeah, he was a teenager. Yeah.
Here's a teenager that wrote a song that the entire world knows.
Yep.
Everyone in the world knows that song.
Yeah.
I mean, that song's been played millions of times. Why do you think that there was such kind of like a look down upon? You mean like, oh, it's just a rapper. We're gonna be a rapper. Now we know there's a Jay-Z who's a billionaire. We clearly know there's a Puff Daddy that's a billionaire. Clearly we know there's Lil Wayne. They're selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
They're using the songs in commercials and movies. And you have Kanye, who works with Adidas, selling $800 gym shoes, $3,000 gym shoes.
Yeah.
Right. We got Drake working with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Why was it so? You kind of answered it in the beginning, but like, how can you weigh in on a little bit more your thought process from being from the music industry? The people that saw and envisioned that versus the ones that were just flat out, this is going to be a fad. The same way Ed Maxson said, the digital download.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's generational for one. I mean, I'd have to say, like, for me, coming from a musical background, I'm a little more open to listening to, you know, everything and even what a lot of the young artists are coming with today. But then also, I'm also guilty of, you know, hearing some of the young artists, that's, you know, I'm not feeling that. That's that young millennial music, right? Or that's that young Gen Z stuff. Or, you know, that's you know, I've been guilty of, you know, hating on some of the like younger music, and I think our parents and some of the older heads did the same thing during our time. So when hip hop came along, you know, it was just like when they were kids and, you know, doo-wop or whatever was, you know, the hot thing. You know what I'm saying? It was like their parents was like, oh, this will never last. This will never be around. But it's cyclical. It's generational. So our music was influenced by what came before us, and their music was influenced by what came before them. So, you know, I think that's why a lot of it was, oh, this will never last. This is just a fad. Oh, that's noise. You know, they just didn't understand because it was new. It was something, you know, we were into.
What you made me think about
was that
back in the days when I was a teenager.
Yep.
I had status before I had a pager.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You said, don't you know that things go in cycles?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
That's
we just blown amps like Mike. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's like all going like in complete it's going like in complete cycles. It's like it's the same thing. So we back then, which I mean over 30 years ago, I mean in the 80s, you know, there was Run DMC, there's a few, and we know where it's at now. Where does hip hop music go from here? Where do you see, where is it at? It's 2020. Where is it at in 2050? Man,
hopefully on the moon. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like hip hop is just one of those things that's timeless and there's no limit. You know, shout out to Master P again, but there's no limit to where hip hop can go. Just recently, I was talking with some friends about some of the stuff like Travis Scott is doing recently with. I saw he has like a McDonald's deal. He was like, I think one of like the first artists to like do a concert on Fortnite. I mean, like innovative stuff like that.
Wow, Travis Scott doing a McDonald's commercial.
Yeah, well, he has like his own burger line or something. Like you can go and order a Travis Scott meal. So obviously there's been like other like food endorsements and stuff like that throughout the years. But I just say that to say it's there's so many different avenues that you can go with hip hop music. And I think it's been proven time and time again. You know, now that we have so many different outlets, such as podcasts and, apps. And, you have all of these new technologies coming out through, like Tesla and all these companies like that. There's so many different revenue streams and so many different partnerships that can be done with hip hop now. It's just going to continue to grow as long as the new and young generation keep coming up with new ideas.
Wow. And you know what? That's and that's the crazy thing when we say like where is it gonna go from here? And that's like that's wild. I mean, that we're at that next level.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what would you say? I mean, like you said, we're doing a podcast where it's all digital. I mean, who would have thought that we're doing this now?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That, man, it's amazing. I don't even know what to. I mean,
well, I gotta laugh about that too, because like going back to like, I remember like when certain new video game systems or technology would come out, and my parents would look at me like, how do you play that? I don't understand how to put all that together. Now I feel like them when I'm on here trying to figure out how to operate Zoom. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Again, it's cyclical. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the like even with the Zoom, like I won't even lie, like it took me like a month to like figure out like any of this.
Yeah, and I think with especially in recent times with what the pandemic has had to force a lot of people to really like figure things out, that they may not have ordinarily done, because we're in a time now where everything is digital, and you have to adapt, you have to adjust. So
right,
I think it kind of forces everybody to kind of like step their game up and come up with new ideas and new innovations, and which will hopefully benefit everybody in the future. Yeah.
Now let's switch over to like the movie world, because you rock the whole music deal. That's actually how we reconnected. Right. Quick story. I saw a flyer on my house saying they were interested in filming a TV show here. I came home, saw it, and I'm like, oh, this is like, I thought it was like a joke or some kind of flyer. So I actually threw it in the garbage. And I was like, you know what? Something just told me, like, you know what? You never know. So went in the garbage, took it out, read it, and then actually it was, it's like, call this number to confirm that it's real. If you don't think it's real, which is odd that was on there.
Yeah.
Call the number, like, yes, confirming this is actual legit flyer. Then got your number. It was like crazy. And you and I were talking. Don't even know we had realized that we had crossed paths in the past.
Yeah.
And then that was when you were filming on the team, shooting for the Shy.
Yeah.
Which that was amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about that whole world of like how you got involved, transition from music into TV and film.
Yeah. So ironically, it was kind of the other way around. So I had been pursuing getting into the music business like all throughout college and probably even before that. And so I was, hoping to, through all my internships or whatever that I did when I attended Columbia College, and I was hoping to like graduate and, come right out with a job, which of course that didn't happen. But what did end up happening was I had done a bunch of odd jobs, and it was like at one point where I was out of work, and a friend of mine was had gotten one of my best friends had gotten a job as a production assistant on a film that was shooting downstate Illinois in Carbondale, I think. And then he got hired on a movie that was shooting in the city called Stir of Echoes. It was a Kevin Bacon movie, kind of a horror film. And he had called me up and he was like, yo, they're looking for somebody to do security for this movie gig. You basically would like just be watching the production stages and, you know, opening up and locking up at night. He was like, would you be interested? I was like, sure. You know, I wasn't working. So I ended up taking that job, and I basically was like the greeter when all the directors and producers and, you know, people were coming to the production office. I would greet them at, you know, at the gate, and then I would open up the sound stages because they were building stages inside this warehouse that used to be over by McCormick Place. And then I did that for a while and started getting a good rapport with everybody. And the production manager came to me and he was like, man, you know, you seem to be making a good impression with a lot of our folks. He was like, do you have any interest in working on set? And I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, you know, I'm trying to get, you know, more young people like yourself involved in production. I was like, he was like, sure. He's like, all right, I'm gonna figure out something for you to do. So what he did was he got me a job as the propane guy, which is actually, now it's like a union gig that's usually held by by the special effects department. But it's one of the jobs where you basically push around these like propane heaters on little dollies.
Yeah.
And when you're shooting on location outside and it's cold, you push it around to different areas of the crew where they can go and like warm up. You got to like maintain them, get them refilled, heat them up. So I did that for a while. And then the last few weeks of the shoot, he transitioned me from that into being a set production assistant. And so then I got to really learn kind of the ins and out of what, you know, happens on set and, you know, what the PAs do and how they assist the overall production. So I did that for about a couple years on different movies and TV shows. But back then, Chicago was like, it was getting a decent amount of productions here, but it wasn't like consistent. So after a while, jobs kind of like dried up a little bit. It was only like really commercials coming. So I was kind of like, you know, things were kind of dead and I wasn't working again. And then that's when I actually got into the music business and I got my first full-time gig working in that.
Wow.
Worked in the music business for a long time. As I mentioned, I worked for Interscope Records for about 5 years. And then after the transition started happening with the whole digital age, that's when labels were like laying off people like crazy. Whole departments were getting shut down. Labels were going away. And I ended up getting laid off in 2009, I want to say. And then I worked for a year at a school. And then I got a call from this brother, Todd Tucker. You might know him from Real Housewives of Atlanta. He was a line producer for a reality show that Oprah Winfrey did called Season 25, Oprah Behind the Scenes. And it was basically a reality show where we followed Oprah and her whole staff over at Harpo for the final season of the Oprah Winfrey Show. So you got to see all the behind the scenes of how the shows come together. We went a little bit into their home life, but it more transitioned into what was going on behind the scenes at Harpo. And I ended up getting a job on that as a field coordinator, and then that's what got me back into production. And then 2 years later, I want to say, I worked on a show. I got a job on an indie film as a location manager. And that was my first time ever doing locations. And I had no idea what I was doing. I stumbled my way through that job without getting fired. Did everything you can imagine wrong. And that was like, I had to like jump feet first into the fire, kind of learn my way through it. And that's how I got involved in locations. And, later became a location scout.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's how much of that would you say your music industry, that foundation played into your film?
I would say quite a bit. I would say from the having to make relationships standpoint, because when I worked in the music business, I was a Midwest promotion director who dealt with a lot of programmers, DJs, and radio stations. So I had to travel around the Midwest, a little bit into the South, going to different radio stations, and I also had to travel with the artists when they'd be on their promotional tours. So you had to navigate a lot of different personalities, a lot of relationship building, networking. And it's the same thing with locations, because you are dealing with not just the crew, but you're also dealing with the people in the neighborhood, the property managers, the different businesses. So you wear a lot of hats, and you have to put out a lot of fires, and you have to be able to have a thick skin. So it's the same thing in the music business, because you get told no a lot, you get yelled at a lot, and you get but you learn so much about how to navigate all those different things, man. So I think my experience in the music business definitely helped in the film side. Wow.
And with the same thing with the film, much like the music, I mean, so much is transitioned. Now you have people that are watching, obviously because the theaters have been closed. So you have people that are, streaming, Netflix is off the chain, Hulu, Disney. Yeah. There's so many different ways to watch film. Do you see, that also too changing with, like what's that going to mean as far as like film goes, as far as is it Hollywood going to go back being the same, or going to like bypass social distancing? Or is that going to change?
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I recently was watching during the pandemic. I think I was watching a video about a lot of the new technology that's out there now. Stuff like green screen has always been around, right? But you look at shows like The Mandalorian, which almost that entire show is shot digitally. Like it looks like they're out in these like big desert locations or whatever, but the majority of it is shot in a little room that's, surrounded by a screen that has all these cameras and digital images that they edit together. So with that being said, you're going to have new models as far as filming goes. I don't think that the real traditional location side of it will ever like fully go away. But at the same time, you have to be aware of like new technologies and things like that. Even what we've had to adapt to from a scouting standpoint, because we can't have as many people go to different locations because of COVID, we now have to virtually scout. So now we have to, as a location scout, we have to, go in with, a camera and be able to videotape and do like 360 images and 3D images of locations that we can, perhaps get on a Zoom call and show digitally, virtually to the director and director of photography. So, a lot of this change, like I said, has forced everybody to kind of adapt and learn new things, in order to be able to, survive and go on to the next level.
Wow. And that's man, that's crazy that's like where the digital thing is like is going now, that they're going to be able to split that screen like that and have, there's no telling. Because they're going to have to adapt, because there's still going to be movies, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. What do you see then, man? What do you see then as far as like, is Netflix going to be the future distributor? Do you see, like, are we going to still, because now too, people are making their own movies and things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Content is always going to be necessary, right? Like you just brought up, people are, making their own movies on their phone, right? So, the whole reason why TikTok or, Instagram Live or any of these, streams exist and are successful is because content is everywhere. Right. And so I think as far as like all of the distribution streams that you have out there, obviously you see a lot of people are pulling the plug on cable. So it's going to be all of these different subscription, options that you'll have. from these, digital streaming sites. So I feel like it's just going to be even more of it. And it's going to be like almost like you're going into a grocery store and you have all these different aisles that you can go to. And I think that's how digital, streaming is going to be.
And then you see the same, like, with music, I mean, going back to the music industry, like that, tying back into like music videos, then like people are going to do more, like.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so, man. I mean, like, I feel like I miss the days when I remember when a movie was coming out, man, and you got to look forward to the soundtrack that was coming out with it. Like, man, I miss those days, and I feel like there's always going to be nostalgia too for the old as well, because in recent years vinyl sales have increased. Everybody thought like vinyl, that you'll never see that again, and now it's like more of a demand for it than ever. I got a record player on one of our shows. We got a record player as rap gifts, and I have a bunch of vinyl from over the years that I've collected, but I was interested in getting vinyl again just because now it's coming back, and they're like reprinting stuff that had been out of print. So I think there'll always be like a desire for the nostalgia and like a re-energization for some of the old things.
Okay, man. I appreciate, man, this whole interview, man. I hope that the young folks or people that might not know anything about this, or people that are from this industry, go back, listen to this, and like reminisce. Because I'm like sitting here, man. I'm just like, it's like got me, and people are texting me like, man, like it's causing people that I haven't talked to in a minute to like reach out to me, because it's like, dude, that was a whole foundation to like where we're at right now. If it wasn't for like back then, there'd be a lot of things that people have no idea of, pioneers that were doing it on a very grassroots, straight grind level to make everything now successful in what it is. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank Dave Leonard for man. I can't believe we chopped up 45 minutes. Man, it flew by, man. Man, I appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate you. Man, can I bring you back in February again to interview you? Hey, anytime, brother. Because right now, my entire cast, everyone that did September is coming back again in February. Yeah, we got it rebooked. And I appreciate your energy, brother. And let's keep it going, man. Yes, sir. I'm Toriano Sanzoni, the Wolfkeeper. Thank you for checking us out. Until next time, remember, there's only one alpha dog, and that's you. Peace.